All right, so we talked about categories of overhead, and we said there are basically two, which is variable overheads and fixed overheads, right? And I explained specifically to you that every overhead cost incurred before the goods are finished in the factory, they are called production costs. Every cost incurred after the goods have come out from the factory, they are called non-production costs, right? So let's now proceed. So today I want to teach what we call overhead allocation.
Overhead allocation.
Yes, I think I talked about cost center in the last class.
You talked about it.
Okay. So let's kick off
Whereby you
from.
talked about probably use an example for Coke and Fanta and water.
Oh, yes. Good. So let's pick up now with overhead allocation. So if you remember the example of Coke, Fanta, and water, that is the same company is producing these three products. They have factories, three different factories in their premises. One factory focuses on Coke, the other on Fanta, and the last one on production of water for sale. Now, if at the end of a period we have spent a total of 30,000 naira on water as a material, you discover that water is not a direct cost because water cannot be traced to a particular cost center. Water is used in both Coke, Fanta, and water factory. So it's not a direct cost. But if I tell you that we have spent 50,000 naira on oranges, for instance, oranges, or let me just use oranges. I don't know the other flavors. So let's say oranges. We know that oranges, there are no orange. Orange is not a part of material for Coke. We don't put orange in water. Let's assume we put orange in only Fanta. So that 50,000 naira spent on oranges is a direct cost to Fanta factory. That one is a direct cost because it can be traced directly to a particular cost center. When a cost cannot be traced directly to a particular cost center, that cost is an indirect cost. Altogether, we said overheads are indirect costs. So now, in a situation, when we're talking about overhead allocation now, this is a situation where a cost, an overhead cost, that means an indirect cost, can be or was incurred for a particular cost center. What this means is that the cost.
Sorry, I'm writing it down, sir.
Okay, no, I'll give you the explanation. What it means is that the cost, I'm still explaining now, I'll give you the notes. What it means is that the cost can be traced to a particular cost center. When an item of overhead cost belongs to a particular cost center, it means that that cost will just be allocated. That means that you just take the entire sum of overhead and allocate it to a particular cost center without having to share it. So when an overhead can be allocated to, can be assigned to a particular cost center without having to share it between two or more cost centers, that overhead has been allocated. So in allocation, you are not sharing. The whole item goes to a particular cost center. The second one is overhead apportionment. I will still give you the notes for each of them. Overhead apportionment is the opposite of overhead allocation. So in overhead apportionment now, the overhead does not belong to a particular cost center. It belongs to like 3 cost centers. So you will now have to share it. That sharing is what we call apportionment. You have to share it for all the cost centers. So in allocation, the whole sum goes to a particular cost center. In apportionment, the whole sum is not for a particular cost center. It has to be shared among 2 or more cost centers. That sharing is what we call apportionment. But how do we share it? How do we know how to share it? There is something we call basis of apportionment. Basis of apportionment. So in a typical question, they will give you different bases of apportionment. You are the one that has to look for the one that is closely related to the cost that you want to apportion. That's the basis you use to apportion it. Take for instance, if you want to share rent, there are 3 factories and we have spent 500,000 naira on rent. Now I want to share it between the 3 factories to know how much rent is in Coke, how much rent is Fanta, how much rent is incurred by water. So how do we share it? They can give you different bases of apportionment. They can give you something like horsepower. Horsepower. They'll tell you this is Coke, this is Fanta, this is Fanta, and this is water. So they tell you that Coke uses 200 horsepower, Fanta uses 250 horsepower, and water uses 150 horsepower. They can also give you floor space area. Floor space area, they can tell you that Coke uses 500 floor space, Fanta uses 400, and water uses 350. So these things like this, they are called basis of apportionment. They can give you like 3, 4, 5, right? So which of these is best to share rent? Which of it? This one is horsepower. Horsepower has to do with how much light is consumed, right? So the light that is consumed in your factory is dependent on the horsepower of your machine. If your machine has a very high horsepower, it will consume more light. So that means that this horsepower is useful in sharing light bill or electricity bill. Do you get it now? So if you want to share electricity bill between the 3 factories, we will use this horsepower to share it because Coke is consuming 200 horsepower, Fanta is consuming 250 horsepower, water is consuming 150 horsepower. So this basis of apportionment of horsepower is best for lighting expense. But what we want to share is rent. So this one does not work. Let's look at floor space area. Floor space area is the area, right? The area that is used by each of the factory. That is how large the area they are using is. So Coke is using 500 square meters, Fanta is using 400 square meters, water is using 350 square meters. So this is best for sharing rent because we are paying rent for the entire space or entire area we are using. So if we are going to share this 500,000 rent for these 3 departments, we'll use the area that they are using, to share it. So in total, how many? What's the total square meters they are using? 1,250, Abi.
Yeah, 1,250.
Good. So if you want to share this 500,000 now, we'll come and say for Coke now, Coke will be equals to 500 divided by 1,250 multiplied by the amount we want to share, which is 500,000. This will be the amount for Coke, 200,000. Use the same thing to do for Fanta. Fanta will be 400 over 1,250, then multiplied by 500,000. Fanta will be 160,000. What about water? Water will be 350.
Water is 140,000.
Water is 140,000. So
Yes,
we
sir.
have. So if you add everything up together, you discover this is 500,000. So we have shared
Exactly.
this using floor space area.
Apportionment, right?
Yes, this is overhead apportionment. Right? So the last one is overhead absorption. We will not go into that today. Let's just focus on overhead allocation and apportionment. So let's write. Okay, so let's put a few things down. Okay. So overhead allocation now. Start overhead allocation. This occurs when the entire cost item, let me zoom. This occurs when the entire cost item of expenditure is charged directly to a cost center who is solely responsible for the cost. So this is overhead allocation. Overhead allocation. So when the entire cost item of expenditure is charged directly to a cost center, because that cost center is solely responsible for the cost. In that case, what we are doing is overhead allocation. Right? It's overhead allocation. Now let's look at overhead absorption. Overhead apportionment. Overhead apportionment. So in this case, this occurs when costs cannot be allocated directly to one cost center because they are shared, or let me say they are incurred by two or more cost centers. These costs are then apportioned. Between the cost centers. Note, apportionment means to share. On a fair basis. Apportionment means to share on a fair basis. That's why you are given different bases of apportionment. You use the best. To apportion. Oh dear. Can I proceed?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So now we are still under apportionment now. So under that, let's talk about let me see. Okay, let's talk about basis of apportionment. Basis of apportionment. Basis of apportionment. So each item of shared expense must be apportioned using a fair basis of apportionment. Using a fair basis of apportionment. Using a fair basis of apportionment. Choosing a fair basis of apportionment is a matter of judgment. That means you are the one that will choose by yourself, right? The one that will choose by yourself. So it's a matter of judgment and preference. So you look at the base of apportionment you are given, right? And look at the best that will suit the particular expense you are trying to share. The best that will suit the particular expense that you are trying to share. Okay. Let's take a quick example. So you can put these things to so I'll share a question now. So okay, so I'm putting a question on the Excel. I'll put the question on the group. I'll also put it on the Excel. Have you seen the question?
Yes, sir.
So let me also have the question here. Now, a manufacturing company has two production departments, machining and assembly, and two service departments. Now, let me quickly explain what this means. Production department and service department. Production departments are the ones who produce the outputs, right? They are cost centers. They are purely cost centers, right? Then service departments do not produce anything. They are only there to service the production department. So, for example, repairs, they are not producing anything. Their work is if any engine goes bad in the factory, they go there and repair it. They are offering service to the production department. They are not producing anything. They are service department. Quality control to ensure that the goods that are produced are of the standard quality. They are not producing anything. They are only providing service. Human resources department, They are not producing anything. They are only offering service. Accounts department, they are not producing anything. They are only offering service. So all those other departments that are not production departments are called service centers. So you have production centers and you have service centers. The production centers are the ones doing the production. The service centers are servicing the production department. Some companies can have a canteen inside the factory or inside the premises. The canteen is not producing anything. Yes, they are producing food, but they are not producing food to sell, to generate money for the company. No, they are producing food to service the people working in the company. So it's a service center. Only those who are engaged with producing output for sale are those that are in production centers. So eventually you see that the service centers are not producing anything, but they are servicing the production centers. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's proceed. So now a manufacturing company has two production departments, machining and assembly, and two service departments, repairs and quality control. The following information is available about production and overhead costs. So you have, these are the various expenses. You have indirect labor costs, total 15,500. They have already shared this one, 5,000, 5,000, 3,500, and 2,000. Indirect materials has been shared also, 1,524. But all these other ones have not been shared. Factory rental, power costs, depreciation, building and building insurance, equipment insurance. They have not been shared. Now, depreciation is a charge for the use of items of plant and equipment such as machinery. So you charge depreciation for using plant and machinery. That's what they are saying. Indirect labor and indirect material costs have been allocated directly to these four cost centers. So they were allocated directly. What it means is that they were incurred separately to their overhead allocation. They didn't have to share it. They were incurred separately. They just added it up to total 15,500. Now, the other overhead costs are shared between the cost centers and so cannot be allocated directly. It has to be apportioned. Other information, you have total, machining department, assembly, repairs, quality control, cost of plant and equipment. So this other information here is called basis of apportionment. So in other words, they gave us three bases of apportionment: cost of plant and equipment, floor area, kilowatt hours. For each of the four departments they gave us. So these are what we're going to use to share what we want to share, right? Then it now say required. How should overhead be allocated and apportioned between these four cost centers? Can we attempt? So we have four cost centers. Let me zoom out a little. So we have four cost centers. The cost centers are machine, assembly, repairs, and quality control. At the top, you write the name of the company. This company does not have a name. You just say a manufacturing company. Manufacturing company. So now you have overhead analysis sheet. Overhead analysis sheet. So on this side we have the cost. We can also have total. So these are our columns. So let's start taking the cost one by one. We have indirect labor cost. Indirect. I'll use that labor cost. I don't want it to be too long. Labor cost. In fact, labor self. The total of labor cost is 15,500, and it is broken down into 5,000 for machine, 5,000 for assembly, Do
Hello, Mrs. Umfon, are you there? Hello,
Hello.
Mrs. I think something is happening to his connection. Maybe that's why it's not. Okay. Let's wait a bit for him then.
I think you guys are gone far.
No, not really. We waited for you though. We started not quite long. We only did about, it's not some, we only did two overhead allocation and then overhead apportionment. So that's the example under it that we're about doing now.
Can you snap your notes for me, please?
Yeah, I can snap and send to your, should I send it to your, what's it called?
Or Telegram?
Yeah, okay, let me do that. Hold on, please.
All right, thank you. Just coming back now.
All right. Sorry, let's proceed because my internet went off and I was talking and talking and talking. I don't know, I was talking to myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, I'm fine here already. All right. So I think we can proceed. So now, all I've written here so far is what is in the question, right? So labor, 15, 5, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, and all those. Material, you also have it like that. Now, when we come to factory rent now, we have 14,400, and we need to share this amount between these four departments. We need to apportion this amount among these four departments. We have to look for the closest basis of apportionment to use to share this amount. So let's go to the basis of apportionment we are given in the question. This is factory rent. We want to share rent. So let's go to the basis of apportionment. So in the question, they give us cost of plant and equipment, floor area, kilowatt hours. Which of these three is the best that we can use to share rent cost?
Rent
This
cost, that should be the floor area.
floor area, beautiful. Floor
Yes.
area is the best to share rent cost. You cannot use plant and equipment because plant and equipment has nothing to do with rent. Neither can you use kilowatt hours. Kilowatt hours has to do with light. But floor area, since we are paying rent for the area we are using, so each department or each factory will also incur cost for the area that each of them is using. So we're going to use that to share the factory rent. So how much is factory rent? Factory rent is 14,400. So let's go and do the calculation of the sharing. So the first department is machining department. First of all, before we do this, you say um, basis of apportionment is floor area. Then you say total floor area is how much? Floor area, we have 1/8. Total floor area, we have 1/8 plus 500 plus 9. No, sorry, not 1/8. 1/8 is total. So
That's the total, sir.
total is already given. So total floor area is 1,800.
So
So that would mean that if you are going to share this now, we'll start with
500.
machine. Let me just use M to represent machine. Machine factory. What's the floor area it's using? It's using 500.
500.
That is 500 over 1/8, total we are paying rent for, multiplied by how much is the rent we are sharing? 14,400. Are we on the same page?
That's 4,000.
So that's 4,000. Then the next one is assembly. Assembly is using 900 divided by 1/8 multiplied by 14,400.
7,2.
Huh? 7
7,2.
7,200. Then the next one is repair. Repair is 100 divided by 1/8 multiplied by 14,400. So just
800.
800. Then QC, quality control, is 300 divided by 1/8 multiplied by 14,400. This gives us
2,400. 2,400.
2,400. So much so that if you add everything here, it must give you 14,400.
14,400.
So this is the apportionment. So you just gonna fill it in 4,007 to 824. So you come here 4,007 to 824. We have apportioned factory rent. See that? I've been able to apportion factory rent. Let's take the next expense. I'm going to stop the class very soon and go and I'll start up again in a few minutes just to plug my laptop. Okay, so let's see how far I can go before the laptop goes off. Then I'll start again. All right, so the next one after factory rent is what? Power cost. Power cost. Power cost is how much? Power cost is 4/8. So 4/8. So we come to our base of apportionment. Which one is the best base of apportionment? Which one is the best base of apportionment to share power cost? Which one is the best base of apportionment to share power cost? So we have cost of plant, floor area, kilowatt hours. Which is the best base of apportionment?
Hours.
Eh?
Kilowatt hours.
Kilowatt hours. Yes, kilowatt hours is the best to share power cost because kilowatt has to do with power consumption. So kilowatt hours. So let's quickly share that. So you can now also state that let me just copy and paste this. That's the benefit of using Excel. I'm not using notes. So based on apportionment, we are using kilowatt hours. Kilowatt hours. And total kilowatt hours is what? Total kilowatt hours is what? Total kilowatt hours is 800 hours, abi? Are we there? So
800.